Hey everybody, MotorPoet59 here. I always have ideas popping into my head about videos I might want to do on this channel or on my other channel. And when those ideas pop into my head, I write them down. Sometimes I do something about them and sometimes I don't. One that I had written down quite a while back and hadn't done yet and got around to doing was one on how the sports media can be unfair to black athletes, particularly black rookie athletes. And the examples I was going to use were Donovan McNabb, Bubba Wallace, and James Stewart. I don't know if any of you know who that. Everybody probably knows who Donovan McNabb is. He was a prolific NFL quarterback, ended up winning a Super Bowl. I would imagine that no one outside of NASCAR knew who Bubba Wallace was until the whole noose thing happened. And James Stewart was a black kid that came into the highest levels of motocross and supercross in 2002. And we'll start with the Donovan McNabb thing. Back in 1998, McNabb was a rookie and Rush Limbaugh was a guest analyst on one of the NFL shows on one of the networks. I don't remember which one it was. It's irrelevant. He made an observation. I should say that McNabb it was later in the season, and McNabb hadn't had a very good year, and but coming out of college and into the draft and all that, the sports media had built him up to be the second coming. He was going to be the next big thing. He was great. He'd had an awesome college career, and he was big, and he was fast, and he was strong, and he had a great arm, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. And he came out in his rookie year, and he really didn't perform. Rush Limbaugh said on that morning show that the sports media had a tendency to hype up and build up these black quarterbacks coming out of college into the NFL, and have all these high expectations of them, expectations that they rarely ever seem to have about white rookie quarterbacks. And then when these black quarterbacks would come in and not perform all that well, like McNabb in his rookie season, the press would throw him under the bus. What happened to him? What's wrong with him? Limbaugh's point was they would build these guys up, watch them fall, and then throw them under the bus. And his point was that the sports media were unfair to black rookie quarterbacks. And it was blatantly unfair. Limbaugh made that observation. It was absolutely correct, and he got fired for it. Donovan McNabb went on to, as I say, have a prolific career. He was a good quarterback. He was solid. I think he played, like 10, 12, 13 years. I don't remember. But then you take Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, I used to follow NASCAR. I don't anymore, but I followed NASCAR and just the Cup Series. I didn't follow the Xfinity Series, and I never followed the Truck Series. And when Bubba Wallace was going to come into the Cup race, that's the first time I'd really ever heard his name. And they were building him up like he was going to be the next thing, which I wondered because, like I said, I followed NASCAR pretty closely at the time, and he came onto the Richard Petty Motorsports team, which is really not all that great a team. They're a kind of an also-ran team, you'd think. I figured if he was that good, somebody like Hendrick would have picked him up. But so I looked into his record a little bit back then, and he really didn't have much of a record. He won, I think, one truck race, and he never won an Xfinity race. He only had a few top fives in the Xfinity series, and I think it was 4 years. But nevertheless, he didn't have a very good record coming into the Cup Series, which made me wonder why there were other young drivers with better records, and they weren't being moved up, but he was. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but they built him up, and I don't know where they got all that, how great he is. He wasn't great. He didn't have a good record at all in the Xfinity Series. But anyway, he came into the Cup Series, and he's never performed. He's been a Cup racer, I think, for 3 years now, maybe 4, and he's never performed. He's had a couple of decent results, but generally he's about, 15th, 20th, 22nd place. That's about where he generally runs, which puts him in good company. There are a lot of people that run in there, and but when he didn't perform as a rookie, people, they didn't get down on him so much as they did Donovan McNabb. The NFL's a much bigger deal, but the fans kind of started jumping on him, and all I could think was, what about all these other rookies that don't really do any good? What about these guys? What about these guys that have been racing for 30 years and have never even cracked the top 10? And kind of on Bubba's side, I kind of felt bad for him because they had done the same thing. They lifted him up. At least the sports media didn't throw him under the bus. Then came the news thing, and his results will never matter again. If anybody doesn't like him or has anything bad to say about him, they're going to be called a racist, and that is just absolutely heartbreaking. Then there's James Stewart. As an amateur, he smashed all of Ricky Carmichael's records. If you don't know who Ricky Carmichael is, he is the GOAT. That's his nickname. Greatest of all time. He raced for 10 years in the professional ranks, and he won 10 outdoor championships. He won 5 Supercross championships in the Premier class and 2 Supercross championships in the 125 class. And he has 150 wins, AMA wins. That's like Richard Petty's record of 200 wins in NASCAR. No one's ever going to touch that. It'll never happen. And but James Stewart had smashed all of Ricky's records, and everybody was saying, man, this kid, you just wait till he gets there. Oh man, he is. And you know what? They're right. James Stewart showed up, and he set the 125 class on fire. They didn't have the 125 class anymore. Now it's the 250 class. And what used to be the 250 class is the 450 class. But James was killer. And they had the 250 four-strokes at the time, but James Stewart was kicking all our asses on a 125 two-stroke. It was an amazing thing to watch. He was I've been watching motocross since 1972, and I've never seen anyone ride a motorcycle that fast, but James crashed a lot. But hey, you know what? Like Danny Magoo Chandler said, if you're not crashing every once in a while, you're not trying hard enough. And I believe James lived by that principle. But he did win a Supercross championship, a couple outdoor championships in both the 125 and Premier class. He had a stellar career, but he was the first black kid to ever race motocross at that level. And since then, the only other one has been his brother, Malcolm, and Malcolm is still racing. James retired 2 or 3 years ago, but Malcolm is still racing. He's fast. He's not as fast as James was, but he's fast enough. He's pretty much a consistent top 10 finisher, and that's something. What do you think? Let me know what you think. Comments below. Shoot me an email at motopoet59@gmail.com. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content, and we will see you all later. Probably not at an NFL game, probably not at a NASCAR race, but maybe at a Supercross or motocross race. See ya.